everyone and welcome back to the Analyst of Vajiram and Ravi, dated 7th of November. We have got today 7 articles for you that are going to be covered from the Hindu and Indian Express, which are as follows. In the first article, as Trump has resumed presidency for the second time, we will see how Trumponomics will impact India and the world. Then, with the changing landscape of the organized crimes, a very important topic for UPSC mains, with evolving social media platform, we will see how it aids and supports the terrorism in India. Alongside decoding 5 other interesting articles for you, including their prelims pointers, providing a handout for revision and quiz for quick recall. So stay tuned. So first of all, the topic is Trumponomics and Media. Entire newspapers of Hindu and the Indian Express are fully flooded with Trump winning US presidential election for the second time. So here the context is that we'll be reading about the possible economic implications of his economic policy, which could be more of protectionist in its flavor, and what impact is it going to have on world in general and India in particular. This is covered under the explained section of Indian Express. Why is it important? Because there's a coverage of effect of policies and politics of countries on India's interest, and because this is a very big milestone which happened in USA recently, an economic giant which has got superfluous effect on other economies, this particular question and this particular area of studies becomes very important for the next year 2025 examination. So read it through carefully. So first of all, let's decode the news. So the moment the announcement of Trump getting re-elected was made, many economies showed a lot of signs of changes. Most prominent one being in the Iran, where its currency fell into record low, all-time low as Trump again clinched the presidency seat. The reason is that this is an arch rival. Iran is an arch rival of USA and vice versa. The other things we saw was a more stability in the stock market. Stock markets didn't plummeted that much, which were expected before. So different signs were shown. So what are the factors which impacts the economy of one country and which can be impacted through other countries? So first of all is the currency. So what is going to be the status of dollar once Trump assumes presidency? That we'll be seeing. Then what are going to be the trade aspects or trade prospects, which includes, will there be barriers? Will there be any tariffs? Will there be reduction in tariff, or will there be increase in the import tariffs? Or how is it going to be the internal economy? Is it going to be more closed? Is he going to perpetuate more protectionist kind of economy or not? So whether there is protectionism or not, that is something we are going to read. Then what is going to be the impact on trade deficit, overall trade deficit, and finally, how all of these factors will lead to the scenario of inflation in USA and how is it going to impact the scenario of inflation in other parts of the world. Okay, so these are the things, these are the economic parameters we will be analyzing, and what are the other parameters which impact them. Okay, so starting with the first one, the economic risks of Trump policies. What are the risks that India might be facing and other countries might be facing? One is related to increased risk of inflation, overflowing inflation that could be coming from USA. So please understand this. No country wants to be inflated above and over and margin. Neither USA wants. So what Trump has said that Trump is about to impose a 20% tariff on import, which means he's going to restrict the import coming from the outside of the world, right? Outside of his country. And 200%, specifically 200% duties on the cars. Now please remember, whenever we are talking about changing in economic policies with coming of a new government, economic policies are going to happen two ways. One is that which impacts the inward economy of that country, let's say of USA in this case, and that which impacts the external trade or the external economies. So for the external trade, what he's doing, he's going to have more trade barriers to offer. More trade barriers will be offered. We will see hike in the tariff imports, right? We will therefore also see some kind of sanctions imposed by him because he is more radical in his stances of economic policies. So trade war, especially with the Middle East countries like Iran, would be offered. Next, for internal economy, of course, what he wants is more propelling of the internal industry. So he'll be pursuing more protectionist policies. Protectionist policies, which means that for his inner economy, there will be tax rate cuts, which means people will now be able to have much higher purchasing power capacity because they don't have to pay that much taxes to the government. Now, this is a short-term gain. In the short term, if I'm doing tax rate cut, which means people will purchase a lot, but eventually the supply, you are cutting it. You are cutting the supply because you're cutting down on the import. You're making the import of cheaper material difficult for your economy, and therefore in the larger run, in the longer run, you will see rise in the prices. Rise in the prices will happen. Why? Because now there will be more hands to purchase, because tax cuts have happened, but at the same time the amount of goods that they want to purchase are not good enough in amount. Therefore, this demand-supply mismatch will lead to inflation in longer run. So, protectionist measures and tax rate cuts will be observed for the inner economy of USA, right? Now, for the inner economy, the Trump will also try to boost or stimulate the dollar flow into the economy, which means there will be more expenditure to be done by the government, right, to compensate with the lowering imports. So here, because expenditure of the government will raise, fiscal deficit pressures will also be there in the economy. So not just the trade deficit pressures, but fiscal deficit pressures will also amount. Now tell me, what happens when the fiscal deficit happens? Then it weakens the money of that economy, that is the dollars. Dollars will get weakened now, and therefore eventually in the longer run, if Trump continues to pursue these policies, it will lead to these inflationary policies, it will lead to inflation in the longer run. Even if it is stimulating the economy, US economy in particular, for the shorter run, in the longer run, inflation will be there. Next is it going to benefit India or not? To some extent, yes, because it will benefit Indian imports. How? Because the dollar will be weakened. So when I'm purchasing something, I will be purchasing it at lower cost as compared to what I'm purchasing it at today's current rate, right? So me importing, my country imports will become more cheaper. Okay, so this will benefit India to some aspect, of course, and this will also therefore lead to attractment of investments. The FPIs and the FDIs might be coming into our playground. Why? Because we'll be having more easy tariff policies, more trade liberalization as compared to USA. This will also lead to growth of industries, more production linked incentive will get boosted with this policy. So this is how India will get benefited. At the same time, there will be certain disadvantages associated as well. So see, next is regarding the immigration shift and the economic proposals. How the immigration, actually there's a mixed policy adopted by Trump. What happens is, he doesn't really stop the immigration. He gives mixed signal to some people, mixed signals to others. So he tries to curb both legal and illegal immigration, and he has tried it in his previous term. You should also know that Trump is only the second president. Who was the first president? You try to find it out and put it in the comment section. He's only the second president of United States who has been reappointed for the second tenure and his final tenure. Now, in his previous tenure, we saw that the immigration policies were made very, very strict. Giving off the H-1B visas, green cards were made more stricter as compared to the previous policies of Barack Obama. So here, you will see him restricting it at one hand, but at the same time granting liberalization to some sectors. So for the specialized sectors, for example, if you're an automobile engineer, if you are, let's say, some systems design engineer or an architect who is having specialist skills, then you might be getting green cards easily. And specifically if you're someone who have studied from the University of US. So people, the foreign nationals studied from the University of US will be getting green cards automatically. So somewhere he's liberalizing some aspects and making strict the other aspects of immigration policies. He also called for corporate tax cuts. So he is the main corporate giant, previously main corporate giant. He was a businessman originally. So of course he'll be favoring his corporate friends. So he has said that corporate tax rates will be cut from 21% to 15%. Tax liberalization is something that he has promised for the US citizens. Now, how is it going to benefit the Indian industry? See, what happens is there are multiple US clients which are taking services of Indian service providers because we provide them at more cheaper services. So our software services are provided to them at cheaper prices. Therefore, they will now be investing more into us because now their corporates will be incentivized. They don't have to pay that much taxes. So this will benefit our tertiary sector more. Okay. Now next one is the Elon Musk's possible intrusion and his increased role in the US administration, because it is said that one of the biggest masterminds behind Trump's success was Elon Musk and his policies, his financial support that he gave to the Trump at that time. So therefore, it is highly likely that he will also be a part of US administration directly or indirectly. How is it going to impact India? See, Musk is the main stalwart of Tesla. Now, Tesla is something that India is also interested in to deal with them. So, India wanted to strike a deal with Tesla, but Tesla said that you should lower the import duty. India did that, but Elon Musk was not happy with those import duties. Trump wanted it to be more further liberalized. Now, this is not in favor of our economic policies, but now if let's say we want to make sure that the US government is in favor of us because it is influenced by Elon Musk, then in that case we might have to appease them by liberalizing import duties further, specifically for the Tesla product. This might also impact the Indian space industry, automobile industry, because it could also lead to anti-competitive practices. Next one is, there are two important economic events that are going to happen. One is the Federal Reserve's 7th of November policy meeting that is going to happen today. You're going to see the results tomorrow. It's going to make a big difference, and they will provide the updated inflation insight, whether US is suffering from higher inflation, lower inflation, and what is going to be their monetary policy stance, whether they are going to pursue tax rate cuts or not. That is something that we are looking for. And the second is China. So what happens is, China Standing Committee has also decided to provide fiscal stimulus to their economy, to provide more amount of money to their economy, right? So this fiscal stimulus package could now, both of these important packages, which are basically to stimulate their respective economies, could hamper and hurt India's interest and other countries' interest, because now the foreign portfolio investors might be diverting their investment from our country to their country, because those countries' government are providing more fiscal stimulus to their industrialists or to their economy, right? Next is the impact on H-1B visa landscape. For this, let's first understand the concept of H-1B. See, this is a visa program. The purpose of it is to fill up the skill gap that is there in the US economy. They have generated a lot of products and industries, but they're devoid of the skill gaps. They are not having best of the minds in the country. So they basically delegate to the other countries, for example, skilled countries like India, by offering them H-1B visa. And this is mostly taken up by giants like Amazon and Google. You must have heard a lot of friends and acquaintances of yours going to USA under H-1B visa. Now what happens is, what is the eligibility? Somebody who has already finished up their graduation in specialty subject, not in general subject, but in specialty subject, can be given the H-1B visa. And the annual visa caps, which means for 1 year, USA offers up to 65,000 H-1B visas for the graduate students in specialized courses, and 20,000 for those students who have also done their masters. Okay, this is the cap. Now, under the Trump administration, it is said that he might be cutting off this cap because he doesn't want that much people to come into his country and take advantage of its resources. That is one of the protectionist policies followed by Trump. Next is India's national, because India is going to get more hurt because most of these H-1B visa holders are from India only, more than 70% in fact just from India and 11% from China. So we might be facing issues if Trump decides to make visa cuts, okay, or cap cuts. Next is historical H-1B restriction under the Trump during his first term. It was seen that he scrutinized the process of getting H-1B visa more as compared to his precursors. So it was seen that during his term back in 2017, there was 30% denial rate of H-1B visa. There were higher wage requirement. So the wage floor that was required to get the H-1B visa was raised by up to 70 times during his time. And during this time also, he might be raising the wage, which means somebody who's earning just, let's say, $30,000 might not be. I'm just giving you a brief figure to make you understand it better. 30,000 if you're earning, you might not be getting the H-1B visa, even if you're graduate, you've done the PhD, you are under specialty course. But if this wage floor, if let's say the wage floor is said to be 75,000, you have to be earning something more than this to score the H-1B visa. Okay. Next is limits on the visa number is also one of the strategies that he could be pursuing, and this could be a threat to Indian IT professionals specifically. Okay. So there will be planned restrictions, and these will be the impacts on Indian professional, as I've already told you. Now, this is how Trump economics will be impacting India and the world in general. What we are observing is that in the shorter run, the inflationary pressure will be eased off in the US economy. There will be tax rate cuts, but in the longer run, it might be eroding their dollar because of inflation. So in the longer run, might be benefiting India. What is in the interest of India is to score a good relation with US, is to score not just good, but a neutral and a diplomatic positive relation with USA, which should also be aligning with India's interest. Okay. Now, since we are preparing for UPSC examination, a potential question that could be asked to you in the mains exam and prelims is the comparative between the nature of Indian president and the US president. Very important topic. You can read it out from the handout that is given to you, but I'll just be briefing it out for you. See, first of all, powers. Who's got the more power? Indian president, we know, is only the nominal head. Real head is US president, who is the head of not just the state but also of the government, right? So who is getting more power over here? US president wins. Next is the functioning. So Indian president can only function under the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. This is given under the Constitution, but US president can act autonomously and independently. So in this case also, he is more powerful. Next is the election process. So how does Indian president get elected? Elected through electoral college, where the parliament and the state legislators collectively vote for it. Okay. And what about the US president? So in the US president, first is citizens vote. Citizens vote for the senators and then, or for the electors, who then vote for the president. So it is not a direct form of election, but it is not as indirect as there is in the case of India. Okay. Next is the term duration. So we all know Indian president gets elected for 5 years. Can they be re-elected? Yes. How many times? N number of times. There's no limit, but there's a limit to US president. So therefore, can only get elected for 4-year term at a time and can only be re-elected once more. So Trump will not be made president again. Okay. So therefore, there is only one additional term allowed, totaling 8 years. Okay. And what is the impeachment process? You can read it from here. What are the grounds for impeachment? That is very important. So this is how we have compared both the heads of the state of India and USA. These are the main practice question for you. I would really appreciate if you can give your time and try to attempt this question. At least brainstorm it. This will help you because this is a very important topic for the next year mains and prelims. Now, the next topic is on organized crimes and the role of social media. So why are we reading this? Because a 2-day anti-terror conference is going to be held in New Delhi, which is going to be inaugurated by Mr. Amit Shah, Honorable Amit Shah, Home Minister of India. And we're going to cover agendas like how organized crime and terror funding are working in coherence and how social media platforms are exacerbating the problem of this nexus. Okay, this corresponds to this part of the syllabus. We've already read it. So first of all, first things first, what is the definition of an organized crime, and can there be a definition of organized crime? See, can you define terrorism? No, because there are so many ways of terrorism. In fact, it is something which is ever evolving, and so is organized crime. Think about it. Anything which is criminal in nature, with regards to Indian definition, is attracting a punishment of more than 5 years is considered to be of severely criminal in nature. All of these crimes are considered as organized crimes, and when they are committed in groups, not in silos but in groups in a very systematic fashion, they are considered as organized crime. But they can be ever evolving, so therefore there is no standard definition. No organization has yet established a standard definition for organized crime, just as terrorism, because it will very likely get outdated very quickly because of the evolving nature. But what we understand are few keywords which must be mentioned in your introduction. First is, this is a criminal enterprise. They intend to do the criminal activities. Second, they are systematically structured, very systematically structured in strong networks. And then they engage in illegal activities for profit gains. So what is their ultimate motive? They want to do illegal activities for their profits. Everybody wants to achieve profit, but they want to do it through illegal activity. They might also be pursuing criminal activities. What are these criminal activities? It is defined something which attracts more than 5 years of punishment. When it comes to the definition given in USA and European countries, it is something which attracts definition of more than 4 years. Okay, so I hope what is organized crime is clear to you. There are multiple type of organized crimes. So some of them are drug abuse, drug trafficking. See, trafficking is an illegal mode of transportation of something. It could be transportation of drugs, smuggling of the arms, smuggling of even humans. So all these traffickings are included under organized crimes only, because one person alone cannot do it, and it's a criminal activity. So it's an organized crime. Next is counterfeiting of the currency to manipulate the economy of a country. Next is again money laundering. Next is arms proliferation, because many times the terrorists would be requiring, the Naxalist or the people who are radicalized would be requiring the arms. Where will they get it? Through the legal route? Never. So therefore, they would be requiring the nexus with the organized criminals. So they also proliferate the arms. Okay. Then there is contract killings, kidnappings, supadis that we say, all of these are form of organized crimes, human trafficking, prostitution. So these are various forms of organized crimes, and there might be more evolving nature, more evolving types of organized crimes, right? But these are some of them which you can write in your answers. Now, there's a clear differentiation between organized crime and terrorism. See, terrorism is something to threaten the state to pursue your profit, to pursue your goal, to challenge the ideology and the social fabric of the society. Organized crime, on the other hand, is only to get the personal profit or institutional profits. Okay, they are not directly challenging the state, but they might be aiding and supporting somebody who's challenging the state. And this is how the nexus happens between both of them. For a more detailed differentiation between both of them, you can of course refer to this table in your handout. I will not be narrating, but you will understand. I have full belief on you. Now, what I am going to tell you is how the role of organized crime is there in the terror funding. So it is through multiple things. First of all, providing them financial resources, which is something, see, economy is required to propel anything, be it a deed or for good cause or a deed for a wrong cause. Economy, money resources is the most important thing. To get it from the illegal route is something that organized crimes aid, because they are doing trafficking, they are doing money laundering, they are doing counterfeiting currency. So they provide financial resources through money laundering. Okay, convert them through legal resources also. So sometimes legal resources also help them. Legal resources, for example, nexus with the bureaucracy can help them. Nexus with the ministers can help them. And then illegal activities, indulging into illegal activities. We have named a lot of illegal activities. Through them, they support the terrorism. They provide them drugs, they provide them arms, they provide them money, they provide them resources, contacts, so on and so forth, right? Now, when I'm reading about the nexus of organized crimes or organized criminals and the terrorists, and how they build or they work in coherence with each other, we have 3 classic case studies which you can quote in your mains answers as well, and this is from Indian parlance only. So what are the major affected areas, criminal affected areas of India or terrorist affected areas of India? Jammu and Kashmir, good. Northeast, yes, and the Naxal prone areas, the red corridors of India. Now, the key groups, let's name some terrorist groups in these respective areas. In Jammu and Kashmir, we've got Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, right? And there is Harkatul Mujahideen. There are so many, right? How do they get their funding? Will they be collecting it from the taxes? No. What they do? They get it from the external sources. They get it from local charities. They get it from the Persian Gulf donors. They are also working in synchronization with them. So who are they? They are the organized criminals only. Then they are getting it from state sponsorship from, for example, China, Pakistan. And they also get the money from Hawala system, from money laundering system, by counterfeiting currency, drug money, because they are also located, because Jammu Kashmir is very closer to something which we call as a golden crescent, the main opium hub, drug hub. So money laundering and the related money is very easy for them to get, right? So next is Northeast state. Let's name some terrorist groups, some radical groups over there. This is Ulfa, Ulfa United Liberation Front of Assam, Naga Insurgent Group. How do they get money now? They are not having money from similar sources, but from different sources, mostly from the extortion of the businesses, extortion of the local people over there. They also indulge into criminal activities like drug trafficking. Why? Because in the northeast it is closer to Golden Triangle, another hub of illegal drug trafficking of opium. So arms smuggling, human trafficking, money laundering, some similar things also happens. This is how they get their funding. Similarly, the Naxalists of the Red Corridor, they get their funding from which place? They get their funding from rural taxation. They impose taxation on the rural people in order to protect them, to not attack them. Then they get it from extortion. They get it again from revenue of smuggling, small arms, homemade explosive, create a parallel government and collect the taxes. So this is how they particularly get their funding. These are some of the case studies which tells us very clearly how there is a straight coherence between the organized crime and how they are helping the terrorism in India. So if we want to tackle the terrorism, we want to also tackle organized crime and vice versa. Both have to be tackled simultaneously. Now, in the age of social media, what social media brings to us largely is a lot of exposure. For a lot of people, exposure to their data, exposure to their movements. A lot of data is there, and also anonymity is there, because we see a lot of apps which are heavily encrypted. For example, WhatsApp, Telegram, heavily encrypted. You will never know who is creating the transaction and what are the messages between them without having the digital key to unlock it. Which makes me ask a very easy question, conceptual one. What is the difference between encoding and encryption? If I get the time, I'll tell you by the end of this session. If I don't get the time, I will encourage you to search it for yourself, because see, building curiosity is the best method to crack the paper. Not just this paper, but to crack success in any areas of life. Okay, so try to relate the difference between what is encoding and encryption. But coming to the point, what is the role of social media? So because it is bringing you a lot of exposure, it is bringing you a lot of anonymity and giving you hands-on access to a lot of data, then as a result of which a lot of things becomes very easy nowadays for the terrorist groups, for the organized criminals. For example, recruitment of terrorism. Have you heard that in Jammu Kashmir back in 2018, there used to be groups which used to be NGOs, which used to be actually volunteers, charity groups, but were actually recruiting the overground workers on social media in front of everybody. These were such groups. So recruitment of terrorism, recruitment of extremist groups becomes easy with social media. Second is crowdfunding becomes very easy. I'm just telling you that I'm doing something for humanitarian cause, and I have asked everybody who is associating with this cause to give me the money. This is how I'm very easily creating white money in the name of crowdfunding. So having resources, creating fund is also easy with the help of social media. Next is drug trafficking and distribution networks. See, because everything is encrypted, nobody is able to know what is going on in a group. Therefore, trafficking becomes very easy. Something which is operated under groups becomes very easy. Communication becomes very easy. Okay, somebody who's operating from Europe will be very easily communicating from somebody operating from Malaysia, right? So that distance is also closed up with the help of social media and internet, right? So of course, all the kind of network, be it drug network or human network, all of them becomes very easy. Money laundering becomes very easy. We've recently seen that some of the NBFCs have been debarred by RBI. Why? Because they were allegedly doing money laundering from China, right? So these NBFCs, these digital lending apps, they are also difficult to track and they facilitate money laundering. Next is, they can perpetuate hate speech, enticement of violence anywhere, wherever there is riot. Be it the Delhi riot or the Meerut riot, you will see that a simple WhatsApp message could get forwarded so many times that it could incite so many number of people at just a drop of a hat. Therefore, hate speech, promoting of hate speech, enticement of violence becomes very easy, and this is one of the most important psychological tool used by the terrorist. I hope you are understanding this. Okay, and of course, if I'm getting access to your personal data, it becomes so easy for me to do extortion, to do the blackmailing, right? Therefore, social media social media regulation is again very important topic, important area to be governed, to be regulated by the government especially, in order to curb the organized crimes and the terrorism. What government has been doing, we'll analyze it first. So is there a national level law for organized crime in the country? No. Why? Because there is no particular definition for organized crime. So for the different type of crimes, we have got different acts. Of course, we do require a unified act because we know that everything is getting interrelated with each other, right? But as of now, we do not have a particular national level act. We have separate acts, for example, Prevention of Money Laundering, National Security Act, Narcotics, Drug Substance Abuse Act. So these are some of the acts working at national level. Now, some of the areas, some of the states which are more prone to such organized crimes, Naxal activities, extremist activities, they have got their own state-specific acts. For example, we have it for Uttar Pradesh, we have it for Gujarat, we have it for Karnataka, we have it for Northeast, right? And at the same time, India is signatory to certain international conventions as well. For example, United Nations Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime. Transnational organized crime means it's something operating in India, some body, some terrorist group, Jaish-e-Mohammed, operating, let's say, in Pakistan, is also doing terrorist activities in Europe. And this is actually a real case study, right? So to curb this, we need international cooperation. One such body to regulate this is this particular one. Question on UNCAC, question on UNTOC has been asked in UPSC prelims examination in the year, I think, 2019 or 2018 it was asked. So please try to read on them as well. And this is a PYQ question for you to attempt. Try to brainstorm on it and see if whatever we have learned so far is helping you to solve this question or not. Okay. Now, as we have very thoroughly analyzed the 2 prime articles of today's current affairs, we'll now be decoding the 5 other articles very quickly for you in a more simplified version. First of all is the automobile industry, which has recently seen retail growth rate of 32% this month. Okay, so this corresponds to GST part of the syllabus. We will be analyzing the prospects, the status, the challenges and the opportunities faced by the automobile sector of India and the growth trend. So first of all, you must know, can you see this map? Can you observe that if I'm locating the automobile industries, they are very much concentrated. They are very much concentrated in only some parts in some countries of the world. For example, Detroit of USA, then there is Jharkhand, then there is your Mumbai and Gurgaon Manesar belt of India. Then there are some areas of Germany, France, etc. So we know that a lot of things have to come together in the right fashion for the automobile industry to finally set up and flourish in that place. Therefore, the trends of the sale of automobile keeps varying and it keeps drastically changing for any economy. As per India, how are we performing? What is our status in automobile industry as such? So our global rank in the automobile market is third largest producer of automobile industry. So when we are reading that USA is going to impose 200% of import taxes, import tariffs on the automobiles, on the cars, it is also going to hurt the automobile industry of India in future, right? This is how we are correlating everything. Now, second data tells us that the contribution of the automobile industry into our total FDI flows is 5.41%, which is impressive. The total expected electric vehicle market that India is going to create would be 49% of the total automobile industry by 2030. So we've got huge potential when it comes to electric vehicles as well. Then projected jobs that will be created by the electric vehicle industry department or the sector of automobile is projected to be 5 million. This is very important for an ailing economy which has got record high unemployment rates of up to 7 to 9%, right? So now, what is the contribution and importance of the Indian automobile industry? Automobile industry has got a huge economic impact because of its multiplier effect. When I go on to purchase a car or to build a car, what I am collaborating with is a steel industry which provides me good steel. For batteries, I am collaborating with the chemical industry. For fuel, I am collaborating with the fuel industry. I am also collaborating with the plastic industries. So when one unit of car is sold, it benefits lot of industries together. which means if I'm propelling the growth of automobile in my country, I'm propelling growth of a lot many other industries as well. Good multiplier impact. Good multiplier impact, which also means supporting a lot of employment across all these industries. So when this industry gets benefited, all the other countries and their employment prospects also increases. Okay, then it also offers me good amount of foreign exchange in result, because I'm the third largest producer of automobiles in the country, in the world, right? So because I will be exporting it, I'll be getting a lot of foreign exchange, I'll also be attracting a lot of FDIs in that case, and this also therefore uplifts our export contribution. Next is a lot of R&D that happens is majorly from the automobile industry only. If we talk about the total R&D investments made by different industries, this is second largest in our list. Okay, what are the trends and factors now which are affecting its growth, and why is it heavily fluctuating? Can you see this graph? It is derived from this IBEF website of Government of India. It shows that after COVID, we saw a plunge, we saw a drop in the rates of automobiles produced, and then it went up, and then again it saw a drop, and now again it is going up by 32%, and with the Trump policy could also drop again. So what are the trends? See, first of all, the trend is highly fluctuating because of the following reasons. We are becoming very climate conscious. Climate conscious means that we are promoting shared mobility more as compared to individual mobilities. Okay, so because of the rising popularity of shared mobility, because of actual problem of congestion in cities, and government support towards building metros and other shared mobilities, making it more greener, therefore we will see that there will be a steep decline in the purchase of individual motor vehicles. Okay, that is why the trend becomes fluctuating now. Next is the post-pandemic saturation, because of which the economy felt a hit and people stopped buying because they were not going out. There was also not a need of purchasing cars anymore, and therefore we were not purchasing that much. It went to a saturation, went to a halt. We were not growing, we were at a halt. Next is the economic slowdown and the inflation in the economy reduces the purchasing power capacity, erodes the money. So I'm not able to buy the car. So if inflationary measures are there in my market, eventually it will hurt the automobile industries the most, because it is not something which sees few impact of inflation. Minor inflation could make your car price up from 3 lakh to 6 lakh rupees. That is clear 3 lakh appraisal. And that is something which a normal person wouldn't be able to leverage, right? Unemployment rate is another reason. Hitting an unemployment rate of 9%, which means people are unemployed, they're not having basic money to afford their basic necessities. How will they be going for transports, individual transports? So that also leads to steep decline. Okay. Next is the consumer priorities, which are shifting from more high value products as compared to the automobiles. Next is high taxes and duties, which are conformed to it by the government, because let's say an automobile is very highly polluting, then government would be putting more duties to it, more taxes to it. It will become less incentivizing for me to purchase it. In fact, if you would have gone for purchasing a car, you know that if the car size exceeds a particular amount of size, the tax on it increases exorbitantly, right? So therefore it becomes difficult to purchase car in this country. Next is the geopolitical tension. For example, the USA, for example, other countries, if they are not providing us steel properly, if they are not providing us their chemicals properly, then how will we create our manufacturing units? Next is strict emission standards. For example, currently we have got BS6 norms. So to follow them, the manufacturing industries, the automobile industry have to be on their toes all the time. They have to keep revamping their technology again and again, making it more greener. Now, this is a very revenue consuming process, a very cost taking process. This also therefore hurts the economies of scale of the automobile industry. I hope why the fluctuation happens is clear to you. Now, what government has been doing towards its revival is we've just now seen the revival of 32%. One such reason for was the month of October. Month of October came up with Durga Puja, many auspicious festivals, Diwalis, etc., in which Indians generally purchase a lot of gold, car, etc. So therefore, it saw a growth of 32% because of this was the month effect, the consumer demand effect. But apart from that, the production also has to be taken care of. So that is taken care of by the FAME scheme. Okay. faster adoption of electric vehicle scheme, the automotive mission plan, the production linked incentive scheme for the automobile sector. There is a national automotive testing and R&D infrastructure project to build faster and more greener electric vehicles or the other advanced vehicles. And then there is a scrappage policy to do away with the more emission oriented vehicles or the retired vehicles. Okay, so this is how government is trying to propel the demand of automobiles in the country to make it more stable. Now here's a question which was asked in UPSC, so you can attempt this one. This is about India being the largest automobile market, yet it faces multiple challenges. What are the challenges? Those challenges which also affects its trends and growth rate. Okay, this is also from the geography point of view, where we have to read about the locational factors which determine the establishment, the setting up of automobile industry in one place. So you should also be knowing the locational factor. Please read on to that whenever you get the time. So now I'll be talking about a very interesting concept of science. This is RNA editing versus DNA editing, because recently what has happened, that a company in USA has become the first ever to treat a genetic condition by editing the RNA of that patient at the clinical level. So if it goes right, if it becomes more accessible to the people, it will help us to cure a lot of genetically produced disorders, for example, sickle cell anemia, thalassemia, etc. Okay. Now, there are few terms which are there in this entire text and context section. So, first is RNA interference. This actually explains what is the role of RNA in human body. To understand that, what is the difference between RNA and DNA? So the entire genetic information that I have is actually stored inside my nucleus, inside the nucleus of my cell. So that nucleus has got strands of information collected in the form of spirals. These thread-like structures are known as chromosomes, and they contain in it what is known as DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. It contains entire information about me, my legacy, my ancestors, everything. Okay. Now, let's say I want to create one protein which says you're getting stressed, so now you have to release cortisol. Okay. So now I will nudge the DNA. I will not bring the entire DNA out, right? I don't require entire information out. I will just nudge the DNA and ask it to give me only that address which contains the information, which contains the code as to how to create that cortisol molecule. Okay, so that information, that address, that thread is known as RNA. This is ribonucleic acid. There's a difference between both of their structure also. DNA is double helix, RNA is single helix. We know that about it. These are the basics. But yes, so from DNA, RNA is produced, and this process is known as transcription. Why is it known as transcription? I have time and again told you in many things, in many recitals and Analyst. When I'm changing the script of something, when I'm making something single helix from double helix, I'm changing the script, right? Therefore, this process is known as transcription. But what is this transcripted for? This code is created to eventually translate into something, right? To translate into something like a protein, into the final cortisol molecule. We are taking that case study. So, when it is converted into cortisol molecule, and it is done with the help of ribosomes. They help in giving it the protein, converting this RNA into protein. This process of conversion of RNA into protein is known as translation. So what is the use of RNA? RNA has a very important function which is known as RNA interference, a very important keyword. Please take note of it. It is when a small RNA molecule keeps a gene from being expressed, which means RNA has got two functions. One is the gene expression into protein. The second is to stop the expression of certain proteins. Let's say I am producing a lot of cortisol in my body because I am getting a lot of stress. Now that amount of cortisol is not good for my hair, my skin, my body, my immunity. So somewhere something has to stop the production. Something has to stop the expression. So that regulatory function is also carried out by RNA. So RNA also interferes with the process of protein production. Therefore, it has got two processes. One is gene expression and regulation. So what is RNA interference? I hope it is clear to you. RNA interference is where the small RNA molecules keeps a gene from being expressed. Okay, this is what we use in the CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing process. Okay, now what is RNA editing and how is it different from gene editing? Clearly, in gene editing, I am editing the DNA itself, okay? And in the RNA, I'm not editing the DNA, but the part of RNA which has come out of the DNA, okay? So this is RNA editing. Let us take a simple example for this. Now, why is RNA and DNA editing required at all? Let us understand this through a very simple example. Just imagine that you have a pizza house. You have ordered pizzas from this house, okay, from this shop. Now, the shop has received orders from a lot of customers. Okay? It has produced a lot of pizzas. Now, this is where all the pizzas are there. Farmhouse pizza, pepper paneer pizza, margherita pizza, all are there. Okay? Now, when the order comes, it tells one of its drivers to send it to your house. You ordered a farmhouse pizza and that driver is carrying pepper paneer pizza. So it will make you very angry because this is not what you want. So what RNA editing does is, this is the RNA. Okay, I have taken up the desired information, the desired pizza. I'm about to deliver it, but that is not desirable by the end product, right? That is not desirable by the house, by me. Therefore, the RNA editing will edit this. This will make this pepper paneer pizza into farmhouse pizza only and then get it delivered. Okay, when I'm doing DNA editing, what I'm doing is, I'm editing the entire software of the shop only. So I will make the entire shop to never create a pepper paneer pizza. It will only be creating farmhouse pizza, so that every time I get a farmhouse pizza only. This is the difference between RNA and DNA editing, and why are they required and where exactly are they edited. Okay, let's quickly look into the aspects so that we can differentiate it. I hope it is clear to you through the example. तो आप ये सारे खुद ही से solve करोगे. Let's see, permanence किसकी है? Who is more permanent? So if I'm making change in the entire pizza factory, it's more permanent, right? Therefore, DNA editing is more permanent. RNA editing is when we are making just temporary changes to the RNA, okay? Therefore, we can stop the therapy whenever it is needed. Whenever we feel कि बीच में the order has been changed, order suddenly Richa is now telling me कि from farmhouse I now want pepper paneer only, then I will be getting that. Why? Because that is allowed in RNA. That is allowed in RNA editing. But in DNA editing, that is not allowed. Once change has been made, it is not reversible. Okay, so flexibility is given more in RNA editing as compared to DNA. So which is more flexible? This one. Okay, then which is more safe? Again, RNA editing is more safe. Why? Because now listen to it very carefully. The enzymes which are required to cut, to change, to paste the RNA molecules are derived from the body only. They are extracted from body only in the name of ADAR enzyme. Don't go into too much depth of it. We are not doing the PhD. These enzymes are coming from the body. So when it is inducted back to my body will not be frightened. It is not getting something foreign. So there will be no to nil response. Okay. Immune response. So therefore, the immune risks will be lower as compared to DNA, because the DNA editing can be done with the help of bacteria enzymes. Bacteria is a foreign material. The moment it gets inducted into my body, I will feel threatened, generate a spike immune response. Okay. So which one is more safer? RNA editing. Which one is having more immune response? Immune response, which means it is giving more threat to my body. DNA editing. So immunogenicity is more for DNA editing as compared to RNA. Now, which is more specific, which is more accurate? Now, here is where the importance of DNA editing comes, that this one is more specific. This one is more specific, but this can also go off targets. But RNA editing has got one problem, that they can act on non-targeted regions as well. Okay. Next is their delivery mechanism. So everything needs a vector, a vehicle to be carried to the target, right? So in the case of RNA, it is some lipid nanoparticle. In the case of DNA, it's some viral vector. This is not important. But yes, delivery mechanisms is required for both of them. Then clinical applications are equal for both of them. But for areas where single point mutation has happened, let's say mutation only has happened in one part of the body, then in that case, RNA becomes more effective. But if it is there in the entire body, for example, sickle cell anemia, for example, something like a blood disorder, it is non-point oriented, then in that case, DNA editing would help. Okay. Next is market potential is equally for both. Future outlook is equally good for both. So this is how we have analyzed both of the DNA and RNA editing. And this is a previous year question for you related to CRISPR-Cas9 protein. Try to answer that in the comment section. I will be looking into it. Now, in the next topic, we will be reading about a very important statutory organization which takes care of the food security in India. Can you name it? It is FCI. the Food Corporation of India. And why is it in news? Because Union Cabinet has recently infused an equity of up to 10,700 crore rupees into FCI under Ways and Advanced Means. So why FCI requires capital infusion and capital support from the government time to time? Because it procures more than 30% of the overall food production or the food grains that have been produced in India. For the procurement at the MSP prices, for the distribution, for supply chain management, for effective storage, it requires a lot of money, which could sometime for a temporary basis gets mismatched. So the mismatches in the receipt and payment between FCI and the farmers and let's say the other procurers, when it becomes mismatched, and in that case it hampers the functioning, the efficiency of FCI. So to save it from that, government has recently offered money, capital infusion in the form of Ways and Means advances, which means this is not a grant, this is a loan that is given by the government. It's not actually given by the government, it is given by RBI. So when this scheme evolved, when it was introduced by the RBI, it was supposed to safeguard the state governments. Please remember, the state governments to tide over their mismatches. Certain time mismatches happens and a lot of expenditures have been made, but not enough revenue has been generated. So in that particular case, to have the working capital for the time being, government RBI provides support to the state government in the form of Ways and Means advances, but it is a loan end of the day. So it has to be repaid. Okay, so it is repayable. And the repayment has to be done for or before 3 months. So it should not be made, repayment should not be made delayed for more than 3 months from the day of making the advancement, and this is covered under a particular section of RBI Act of 1934. Now, in this particular case for FCI, see, RBI can only give it to the state governments. But for FCI, similar provisions can be made by now, but now the Ways and Means advances would be given by the Union Cabinet, by the central government, so that the current capital or the current working capital for this financial year could be substantiated by the government for FCI, okay, for proper functioning of FCI. Now, why is FCI important and what are some of the prelims pointers related to this organization? So what happened in the year of 1960s, there was a huge food insecurity going on in the country because of the poor production and storage of the staple food crops, for example, wheat, rice, etc. So here comes government to the rescue of it to ensure the food security in line with the then national food policy. It created a statutory body under the name of Food Corporation of India, Food Corporation Act, backed by the Food Corporation Act of 1964, finally got established on 14th of January 1965. Now, what it basically does, it provides food security. Okay, it procures the grain from the farmers at MSP prices. It helps the farmer, therefore, it holds up the stock, it creates the stock and creates storage facilities so that it can be distributed in PDS system, it can be distributed to the weaker sections of the society equitably, so everybody gets food security. It also ensures that the food gets supplied and transported from the food rich regions to the food deficit regions. Okay, so this is about Food and Public Distribution, which is a department under the Ministry of Consumer Affairs. So don't get confused between the ministry which takes care of this corporation. It is not the Ministry of Agriculture, it is Ministry of Consumer Affairs. Fine. It is particularly important for India because the total amount of wheat that is produced in India, up to 20% of it is directly procured each year by FCI. Total paddy, total rice produced in India, again 15% of it is procured directly by FCI. And the entire PDS scheme is driven by FCI procurement only. Okay, so FCI as such is very important for the economy, for ensuring food security, for benefiting the farmers. So then what are the further roles of FCI? How does it actually ensures? It procures a food grain at MSP. I've already told you who decides MSP in India. It is decided by CACP, which was established in the very next year after the establishment of FCI. FCI got established in 1964 and CACP in 1965 to establish the standards of MSP declaration. Okay. Next is, it also leads to increase in the storage capacity because of the go downs that were created by FCI. Then it also leads to movement and distribution of the stock to the deficit regions, I've already told you. Next is, it also undertakes a supply of food grain. Now this one is important, to the areas affected by natural calamities. For example, some cyclone has hit over some place, food security happened. The moment food security alarm goes up, FCI becomes active in that region. So it is for natural calamities, for defense and paramilitary forces. Therefore, it is a very important area of interest for FCI to maintain go downs, to maintain storage buffers for any kind of emergency or exigency. Okay. Now here is a question for you. So there is one very important committee which is associated with improving and providing reforms in the functioning of FCI, because that is marred with a lot of concerns. Okay. So one of the recommendations that they have given is to remove the levy rise. What is levy rise? Can you tell me what is levy rise? Then it has told to provide more privatization, especially for maintenance, for storage, for go downs. Privatization in go downs and storage facilities. Which committee is this? A very important reforming committee for recommending reforms in FCI. So I'm waiting for that in the comments. And alongside, can you also tell me, when we talk about MSP, okay, so MSP is actually determined. It is determined by proper evaluation by CACP. But is CACP authorized to declare the MSP? And if not, then which body actually declares it? Okay, and who heads that body? That is another question. So if you've understood that, we'll move to another type of agriculture sector, which is plantation crop. A very important one for India, the palm oil, because India's palm oil have recently soared up. So let's see how much has it soared up. So in the month of October, imports have surged up to 60%, nearly up to 60%. And this is to do two things. First of all, we were short of our stock. So first of all is to replenish the stock and to create buffer stocks, and second, because there was a strong festive demand because of Diwali, Navratri, etc. So this is also strikingly remarkable for a country which is the world's biggest vegetable oil importer. So is palm oil, which grows on trees, is it a vegetable oil? Is palm a vegetable? Yes, palm is a vegetable oil, and the three major vegetable oils that we procure is the soya oil, the soy oil, the sunflower oil, and majorly the palm oil. We are the largest importers of palm oil in the world. So what we read is, it is an edible vegetable oil which is also inert in nature, and therefore it could be used in multiple applications, for example cosmetics, therapeutics, for eating, etc. In fact, the vanaspati ghee that people use is primarily made up of this palm oil only. The second reason why it is heavily imported by the country is because of its cheapness. It is the most cheapest available vegetable oil, and therefore it is also something that we get, and we get it mostly from two countries, Indonesia and Malaysia, which are one of the largest exporters of palm oil because of its tropical environment. So what is the environment required for cultivation of palm oil, and why don't we have it? So the palm oil story tells us that we require 25 years for the tree to finally turn into a productive tree, which has to be given the tropical climate all round the year, which means it is an evergreen tropical species. Second, each fruit only contains 30 to 35% of the oil. So it is productive, but at the same time, we would be requiring good productivity in one tree in order to create the palm oil. Next is, it grows best around the area which is given or endowed by tropical climate around the year. Can you guess it? It's the evergreen forest, the evergreen area, the tropical area which is surrounding the equator. So near Madagascar, near Malaysia, Indonesia, that is why they are one of the most prominent growers of palm oil or the palm vegetation. Now, there is one important alliance actually. This is Asian Palm Oil Alliance. This is a non-profit organization, and this is to ensure the sustainable production of palm oil because it is very much required by all these countries. The member countries are Bangladesh, Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, which means all the neighbors of India, including India. So these 5 countries are a part of it. This question could be asked in UPSC prelims examination, so take care of it. Now, in India, when it comes to India, we do not have a lot of palm plantations. One of the major reasons is the climatic condition, and second is the lack of patience, because as we have seen that one tree can only become productive after 25 years. Okay, and again then you have to wait for 25 years, and it can only be harvested after 10 years only. Okay, so 10 years gap has to be there. So it is not that you are doing slash and burn very quickly with palm plantation, so it requires a lot of dedication. We have very marginalized lands with our farmers, so averaging land of about 0.1 hectare per farmer. Marginalization of land is another problem because these cultivations require huge plantation areas. So that is also required. So what are the potential areas of oil palm cultivation? Think about a tropical area of our country, Andaman Nicobar Islands, the northeast of the country, right? So it is Assam, Tripura, Arunachal, Mizoram, Manipur, Nagaland and Andaman and Nicobar. They can potentially be very well used for growing palm oils. Now, do you know the first ever integrated production facility of the palm oil has been created in which state of India? It is created in Arunachal Pradesh, and now you know the reason why. Okay, now why does India need so much palm oil? So first of all, we are overtly dependent on palm oil because it is cheaper, it is used in a lot of applications, and it also accounts for over a third of India's edible oil consumption. We use a lot of vanaspati, which is not very healthy, but we do use it in a lot of snacks, so for that we require it. Overall imports 60% of its total requirement, only 40% is grown in our own lands. It is the cheapest available edible oil. I have told you it has inert taste, so it can be used in multiple applications from cookeries to from makeup to pharmaceuticals, etc. It is relatively stable at high temperatures, so therefore it can be used multiple times. Same oil can be used multiple times. Of course, it will create free radicals, not good for the health, but yes, it can survive. The oil can survive. Next is the main ingredient in vanaspati, prominently used in the snacks of India. Then it is unlikely to impact the food inflation immediately. Unlike the other kind of oil, for example, sunflower or the soy oil, this is not directly consumed by the consumers. If you see it in a way, we don't go and purchase palm oil, right? It is indirectly somewhere infused in some of the products around us. So if in case the imports plunge, then in that case it will not impact the inflation of our country immediately. Okay, why are we not growing it? Because long gestation period, 24 years, deforestation problems will be there, exploitative labor practices are there. So these are some of the challenges why we are importing 60% of the total of our requirements. Okay, and most of it we get from Indonesia and Malaysia. So regarding the edible oils and their import, a question has been asked in PYQ 2018. Kindly be disciplined enough to solve this one. And now comes the last topic of the day, a very important scheme to boost the education sector of India, to make people like you and me and all the other people, especially belonging to marginalized sections of India, to avail the best quality education. So this is PM Vidya Lakshmi scheme. So when I read the article, I get some of the important points. First of all, this is for higher education. Okay, so it is only for those who want to get admission under higher education institutions, that too the quality higher education institutions, a list that is created by the central government. You tell me, education as a subject comes under union list, state list or concurrent list? And if a change was made, under which amendment was it made? Or was it not made at all? So the first thing that I read was, it is for higher educational institutions where student can avail collateral, which is the first problem of loans. So collateral free loan and guarantor free loan. So very easy accessibility to the loans would be provided. Now how government is helping me if I have to take the loan on myself? Government would be helping me in two ways. First of all, would be providing me credit guarantee. At least 75% of the credit that I am getting will be with me and will be availed at at a very easy process through a single window clearance process. Okay, so 75% credit guarantee will be given by the central government up to the loan of 7.5 lakh rupees. This is for all the students, but for those students with a family income up to 8 lakh rupees who are ineligible for the benefits under any other government scholarship scheme. So which means, if somebody, let's say if I am not having total income of 8 lakh rupees and I am not even able to get any other government benefit, then in that case, government will provide me 3% interest subvention on loan up to 10 lakh rupees. What does it mean? Which means I got a loan up to of 10 lakh rupees. ठीक है? Interest में bank told me that you have to provide us interest of 5%. Now government will come and say, no, 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 this is a special child for us. I want him to be educated in the best way possible. So what I'll do, I'll provide 3% interest subvention, which means 2% will be paid by me and 3% of this 5% will be paid by the government. So I only have to now pay 2%. This is how government is trying to propel the getting of and the accessibility of the qualitative higher education in our country. What are the key objectives? Tell me. Key objective, first of all, is to facilitate the educational loan. When I'm saying facilitating, is to make the process more smooth and easier. So I don't have to go to multiple places, multiple banks. Everything will come through one thing, will come in one place only, and that is the portal. So there will be an integrated online portal under the Vidya Lakshmi platform. Please remember, it is only for higher education. This is how UPSC can fool you also. It's not for the entire, for all the educational sectors of the country. Okay. Second is, when I'm taking the loan, I also need to know about the status of application, sanction, repayment, disbursement, etc. So for that, there is very effective loan application tracking mechanism that is on board into this platform only. Next is, which loan would I like to have, or whether I am able to get any scholarship, I'm eligible for any scholarship. All of that details will be there for you. So it will be supporting you through educational loans and scholarships as well, which will be provided everywhere in the portal. So there will be comparative boards in this portal. You can compare the scholarship, compare the loan, and choose the best for yourself. So it is custom made solution for getting scholarship and for getting loans. So it includes financial inclusion, education inclusion, it produces transparency, and what is more required to make the education more accessible, affordable, and available for the bright minds of India. Okay, so with this, I will end this discussion. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have enjoyed it. So see you again, and happy studies.